We're so glad today to really just have a few moments and a little bit of time with Alan Moore from the Harry Edwards Sanctuary in England, who's really popped on just before Christmas, really to kind of just share a little bit of the essence of what we'll really be covering in our Telos live session when we meet up with Alan in January. So in a moment, Ella and I, we're just going to invite Alan on, and we're just going to take you through a few questions just so we get a bit of background on some of the things we might be sharing when we reconnect for Telos Live in January. So, Alan, welcome all the way from, I hear it's not so sunny England, but I hear you're getting ready for Christmas. Is that right?
Yes, good evening. It's morning here in England, 8:30 in the morning, but it's a very grey day, typical English weather, I'm afraid, for December.
Yeah, I
But
can
yeah,
imagine.
ready for Christmas now. The sanctuary's all nicely lit up with Christmas trees all around the building and everybody in the festive mood. We had the volunteers lunch last week, and this week all the staff will be celebrating their Christmas lunch. But we do close over the public holidays. We don't stay open. I mean, most weeks we're open 7 days a week, but we acknowledge at Christmas we do close down. But our presenters will still be online doing healing on Facebook on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, all the way through. The work from home never stops, and the distant healing, of course, never stops every day.
Stops.
Yeah, 365 days of the year we send out our distant healing. So
that's great. And Alan, maybe for those of you who don't know you, because we have put your bio up on the main webpage for our session, but maybe just tell us a little bit about what your role is, obviously at the sanctuary, and what really first got you into healing. And I know you'll be sharing more about this in January, but maybe we'll get just in a nutshell, just that little bit of a sense of you.
Well, to start at the beginning, I was 19 years old when I first saw Harry Edwards, and he was doing a public demonstration in South London. And it was my mother who was interested rather than my father or myself. She took us to see Harry Edwards. I liked what I saw. My dad liked what he saw. And that was the beginning. And I'll tell you all more about that next time. But really, it just went on for many years. I got married, had 4 children. A working life, and it wasn't until I got to my 50s I went to see a healer. The healer suggested I became a healer, and that was the beginning of my proper healing journey. I was in my 50s then. I trained as a spiritual healer. I trained in Reiki and crystals and did other areas, not quite knowing where I was going. And anyway, I ended up at Harry Edwards. And I was invited to become a healer at Harry Edwards in 2008. And that's where my healing with Harry Edwards Sanctuary started. From 2008 until the present day, I've been working there as a healer, as a volunteer. And 4 years ago, I was asked to go on to the trustees. So I've been a trustee now for 4 years. And it was earlier this year, back in the summer, when our chair of the trustees decided he had had enough years in that role and was going to stand down, and I was elected to become chair. So I've been chair since September 23.
Fantastic.
Role,
and your role there, I mean, obviously as the chair, what does that kind of involve for you now?
Keeping the peace. No, a chair job isn't the person that does everything. The chair's job is to be there and delegate and to get involved with any conflicts that are going on, not just between trustees, but between staff and between volunteers and staff, etc. So I feel my role is very much, arbitrary thing. I'm in there just to keep everything nice and calm and ticking over. Making sure that we have our meetings and make sure that the agendas for the meetings are correct and we don't miss things. And also, like today, be a little bit of a public image for the sanctuary.
Yeah. And Alan, we talk about this person, Harry Edwards, and in a moment, I'm just going to put a picture of him and a scene up there as well. But in a nutshell, again, because I know we'll go again into more detail in January, but I mean, I mean, who was Harry Edwards, and what do you feel, in essence, was kind of his impact on healing?
Harry Edwards was born in the 1800s, the very end of the 1800s. And in the First World War, he was in the army, like a lot of lads of his age would have been. And he suddenly found that when he was working with other soldiers and that, and people who were injured, that somehow they felt comfort from him and were getting better when he was with them. And anyway, he worked in the print. And after the war, back in the 20s, he was back working in the print. And it wasn't until some years later he sort of realized that he had a gift that maybe not everybody had. And he started doing his healing in the 30s, and then coming up to the Second World War, and suddenly found that he could actually help people enormously. People who were with all sorts of medical and physical and emotional conditions, his presence with them seemed to make them better. And this went on through the war years. And in the 40s, he decided to actually open up his own home so people could come and visit him, sit with him, and he would do healing with them. And then he became, after the 40s into the 50s and that, he was one of those people. He would go to, in London, up to Marble Arch, and he would stand there with his placard telling the public all about healing and the fact that it wasn't a miracle, it was something that we could all do. And he was trying to publicize that to everyone. And that's how he started back in those days.
Yeah, it's quite an amazing story. And I know I've got a picture here too, because some people haven't really seen or heard about the sanctuary. But maybe if you can just tell us, like a little bit about what is the sanctuary and how's it being used at the moment. And I know it's very special for you because you actually got married there as well.
I did. And that building there was built in the 1800s. It's an Edwardian building. And during the Second World War, it was used by the Canadian Army as their base. It lies in 30 acres of land. It is currently a 6-bedroom house, but it has had bits added on. On the right-hand side there, you'll see a little extension there, which is called Dell Cottage, and a family live in that cottage. And the piece you cannot see to the left of the building is where all the healing rooms were built. And we've got our lovely sanctuary around there as well. So maybe we'll get some other photos of that over to you, Les, so you can use them next time.
Yeah, fantastic.
But the building looks exactly like that today. And that side of the building there has been looking like that for many, many years. Now, the upstairs there are the bedrooms, and Harry Edwards lived there. His bedroom is fairly centre. If you look at the second floor, it's fairly centre. That's Harry Edwards' bedroom. And other bedrooms his family were in because he had 4 children. His sister also lived at the sanctuary for a while. And downstairs became his offices, where his secretaries in that used to be, because obviously before modern communications of emails, etc., everything came by telephone or letter. And at one stage, Harry Edwards was receiving 2,000 letters every week. Now, nobody had the time to do that all on their own, obviously. So Harry Edwards used to read through them. He had other healers work with him who used to read through them as well. And then their brief notes onto the letters were then typed up by his secretarial staff. And at one stage, I think he had about 20 staff responding to all the correspondence.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. And I know, again, we'll, be sharing more about that when we meet in January. Ella, I know you had a kind of connection because I know you're getting excited because you saw the essence of Harry Edwards in Poland. Maybe just share a little bit about that with Alan and just a little bit of that experience before we finish up.
Harry Edwards is very close to my heart, has a place in my heart, but also he is working with me very closely when I'm doing healing, when I'm doing Reiki. And I believe I met him when I was a little girl in Poland. My mom was very sick, and we got the news that in the little church next to Gdańsk, North, the big healer will come and will try to help people to heal them. I know I've got the tickets. Don't ask me how I got the tickets. And we wait in the queue. Oh my God, probably 5, 6 hours, hundreds, I think thousands of people were. Here we are in this little chapel. I still have a goosebumps when I'm telling you this. Eventually, like a little church, little chapel, and on the side where Chris will give you communion, that was, I believe, Harry Edwards. And I and my mom were just about to receive something. I mean, my mom. So I was holding her from behind. He just put his hand, towards my mom's heart, but he locked his eyes with mine. And I will never forget this. That was my first experience, like be in front of the healer, and obviously I didn't have any idea what to do with this until probably 40 years later. The
And now,
story will continue when we gonna catch up in January.
and now look at where you are, Ella, with all the healing you're doing. Alan, before we finish up, obviously there's a lot going on in our world and things have probably changed since Harry Edwards' kind of era. But, from your essence, why do you believe it's important, or this understanding of this healing gift and sharing healing, why do you feel it's important at this time in our world?
Well, I think everything we've been going through for many years requires help. I mean, all of us, whether we're family people with children, or whether we're at work, or whether we're a little bit more senior in our years, whatever, there's always stresses and concerns in our lives. And I think this happens to everybody. I mean, if whatever you say to people, would you like healing? And they say, oh, I'm all right. There's nothing wrong with me. And you can just tell by looking at them that that's not true. Because the healing energy, when it flows around your body, it's not there to take over your body. The healing energy is there for your body to use that energy. It's a little bit like the body gets exhausted at times coping with what's going on, and it needs a top up. And the healing energy flowing through anybody's body will just help their own immune system to work better. It will help their emotions to deal with things. And that healing energy just flowing through people's bodies is there for them to tap into. And I think when COVID came along, even more so, because certainly in the UK with COVID, the medical people were not getting a lot of help. The doctors, the nurses, they were working every hour they had. And they were so exhausted. And, it was an awful situation. And I think when the healers came along and so simply could send out distant healing or meet them to do face-to-face healing or whatever, they just realized that it was recharging their batteries and making them feel so much better. We're not there to perform miracles. We never have been. No. We're not God. It's up to the laws of humanity, isn't it? As to how we live and what we do. But we can at least help people to cope with their lives, whatever they're going through. And that is the important thing.
What do you think, Alan? What is holding back? Because some people are happy to receive healing, others not. Some people are happy to learn, but others not. So what holds them back to receive and to learn?
I think sometimes they're frightened. Sometimes they learn. Sometimes they go back to films and see, when they see a healer in a film, what are they doing? It could be a Native American. It could be somebody in one of the South African tribes or something like that. And they think healing is done in that way. They don't realize how simple it is and how that energy is up there for anybody to tap into. You haven't got to be a trained, qualified healer necessarily to tap into that energy, because every mother, every nurse, every parent, they are naturally providing healing to their loved ones, because they are just like the power of prayer in all our churches around the world. we are drawing that lovely universal energy to ourselves and to our loved ones.
Yeah.
People are frightened because they think it's going to be something that take over their body, and they don't want to get involved. And as you say, there's probably more people frightened of receiving healing than there are people receiving it, which I think in time will change. I can see a lot of change that's happened since COVID 4 years ago.
Yeah.
If that change continues, then maybe it'll be far more accepted as the years go by.
Well, Alan, I wanted to thank you again for just being here with us. I know we're going to share some more in January. It's just been nice to just talk to you and find out a little bit more. And it's a subject, obviously, I think we could spend a lot of time sharing and talking about. And one thing I'm just taking away too is the big blessing that, obviously while we did have COVID, it did put a lot of things online. And so even doing something like this with you, it would not have probably happened, had it not been for us all having to shift the way we do things. But really, to finish off, in terms of this session, I just want to just let everybody know we're going to be meeting. It's going to be on the 24th of January in the evening Melbourne time, which is 7:30 p.m. And I think the same time your time, Alan, which will probably be about 8:30 again.
Yes, it will be 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah. So you can just follow the link. It's at www.flameofeternallight.org/Telos Live to register for that and join us for the session. So, Alan, look, thank you for being here. It's been great to catch up with you, and we're really going to look forward to meeting up with you again in January.
Yeah, it'd be lovely. I look forward to it. So I wish you and all your followers a very Merry Christmas and a very happy and healthy New Year.
Thank you very much. And you stay warm over there during your Christmas. Okay, thank you. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.